Welcome to LBCC Historical Apothecary. Today's discussion is going to be pomade. And we aren't going to actually show you how to use it. We've done that in a lot of old videos. You know, we took a break from YouTube for a while and did a lot of Facebook Lives. So if you're looking for more Facebook Lives, check out our business Facebook page. And you could just type in LBCC Historical and it'll show up. And so one of the first videos that I wanted to focus was to revisit the powder and pomade, or the powder and the pomatum. And what better way to do it than just have like a short discussion on what exactly is pomade? You know, how is it used? What happened to pomade throughout history? How did it change? Things like that. So I really want to just start by talking about the basics. What is pomade? Why do we call it pomatum? Things like that. So let's just dive right in. If you are familiar with historical products, historical hair care, or even medicinal products, body care, cosmetics, you've probably seen the word pomade or pomatum being thrown around depending on what circle you're in. Even if you're interested in vintage, you would have seen the word pomade. If you're interested in history, like 15, 16, 1700s, even 1800s, you may have seen it referred to as pomatum or pomatum. A lot of people pronounce it differently. To me, it doesn't really matter how you pronounce it, but it's a very interesting name, a very interesting label given to a variety of products. It's not just hair, and I think a lot of people get confused when they see pomade or pomatum. I know we get a lot of questions on our shop about, you know, is this specific pomade good for the hair? Pomade in general is a blanket term, let's just say. It's basically a perfumed ointment used for the hair and the face and the skin. It's derived from the French pomade, meaning ointment, and it actually it previously came from Latin, meaning like fruit or apple. So in the very, very beginning, some of the first pomades were made from mashed apples. And then you can kind of see how from the mashed apples, they could either add like flower waters or they could add fats, and it kind of just took on its own personality from there. So it can be salve, which is made from beeswax and oils like spermaceti, which is illegal these days, or almond oil. And so it produces a stable compound that you can either put your beeswax in or not put your beeswax in. And a lot of times there's specific reasons. So you have different types of pomade, just like today when you go out into the store, there's different types of hair gel, there's different types of hairsprays. It's the same concept, but not all pomades are just for hair. As we said, the description of pomade is a salve or a ointment used for the hair and the face and the skin. So when you pop into our historical apothecary, or if you see us set up in our apothecary tent, you will see various products called pomatums or pomades. And usually we have them kind of separated. So if you go to the hair section in our shop or even on our online shop, you will see all the pomatums or pomades that the recipes specify are for hair. But before we delve into the hair, let's go into the medicinal aspect of them. In our shop, you probably have noticed, if you've been there, that we also have something called a lily pomatum or a sultana pomatum. And you're thinking like, you know, here they are right here. So you're thinking like, wow, like these don't really come in the same jars that the other hair pomades do. So what's the deal with that? Well, these are what we consider skin pomades or salve pomades. And the consistency is a little different than, you know, hair pomades, but basically it is an ointment for the skin to medicinally, in the medicinal aspect, to help heal or to help prevent, you know, various maladies. Let's just talk about the 1772 Wrinkle Pomade for a bit. And this is a really amazing cream pomade. Okay, now with all of our pomades, all of our creams, it's really important to understand that as a historical apothecary, we follow the original recipe as much as possible. And almost all of our products, there's very few that we've had to change. Obviously, you know, we talk about this a lot. Spermaceti doesn't exist. They have artificial spermaceti. I have not tried it, but our goal is to stay natural and organic and, you know, all the good stuff for you. So we have replaced spermaceti with jojoba. A lot of people pronounce it differently. And so if you pronounce it differently, it's okay. But scientifically, molecular structure-wise, it's very, very close to spermaceti, and it actually, in different forms, it actually is like a waxy substance, just like spermaceti was, or it can be an oil. So, but a lot of times it's various fats and various oils. And so if you're familiar with, you know, essential oils or plants or herbs, you know that lily is excellent for skin, keeping the skin soft and smooth and fighting wrinkles. And so that is why this one is for your face, and it's still considered a pomade or a pomatum. So remember, that just means a salve, a salve or an ointment. And then the same thing with this Sultana pomatum. Now, you know, a lot of times you see like the snake salesman, they say, oh, this is a cure-all, and you know, anything that you have, it's gonna cure. Well, we don't really like saying that, and you know, we try recipes, if they don't work, we throw them out. So historically, there's a lot of options available, but you can bet, like if you're purchasing something from our shop, we've tested it, we know that it works. And Sultana pomatum is one of those amazing ointments where in the 18th century, they sort of rebranded it. The basic active ingredient is the balm of Gilead. And balm of Gilead is absolutely positively ancient. Balm of Gilead throughout history, fascinating history, very confusing history. We talk about it a bit on the page, so if you want to look more about it, check out the Sultana pomatum on the LBCC historical Etsy shop. But it's just a really amazing ointment or pomatum that can be used for so many things. And if you really want to use these pomades, these skin pomades on your hair, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to say no, you know, it's still a pomade, it's still a salve, it's still an ointment. And we're going to get into that too with these historical ones. With the historical medicinal pomatums or pomades taken care of. Now, I think it should be said that regardless if you refer to it as pomade or pomatum, it's still the same thing. You know, pomatum is an older term for things, and we use it more in the 18th century, but 17th century, 16th century, things like that. It's very ancient. Pomades have various consistencies, and those consistencies happen by what you're mixing in it. And generally it's a combination of, you know, fats, waxes, flower waters, oils. And by mixing those ingredients in various orders or leaving some of those ingredients out, that's how you get the various consistencies. A lot of pomades or pomatums could even be described as cold creams, the very early ones. So if they're mixed with water, like a soft pomatum is, then you have a emulsifier action happening. So it thickens and it gets really fluffy. If you don't mix it with water, then you get a, you know, just like a salve, like a very hard, not necessarily very hard, depending on how much beeswax you put in it, but a salve of some sort where it's not going to be like light and fluffy. When you think about it and you look at these soft pomatums, you're thinking, well, that's kind of sort of the consistency of cold creams. Granted, cold creams are like a consistency notch above, but it's sort of the same concept. And the first person who was said to have created the first like emulsion, where you're mixing waters, creating a cream, is Galen. He reportedly made the first emulsion by mixing water with fat. And so now, whether or not that's really true in the long run, because he was a Roman physician, you know, there was quite a long period of time before the Romans, so, you know, but so says history. So we're gonna go with that for now. But when you think about it, creams, various salves with fats have been around for a long time. So yes, it can be used for the skin, it can be used for the hair. Historically, we call it pomatum. You know, if you're talking about more vintage, it would be called pomade. Now let's talk about the hard pomades versus the soft pomades. Throughout history, there is two types of pomades or pomatums for your hair. There is a hard and there is a soft. And the basic difference is, this is what they both look like. Rule of thumb, most of the soft ones come in the glass jars. The only one that is not soft, that actually has beeswax in, but not tons of beeswax, is the Parisian pomade. So there's quite a difference in the two when you are not adding wax and adding wax. When you're not adding wax, you get this really soft, fluffy ointment where generally it's whipped with flower waters and oils. But when you add wax, you get this like, when you think of like pomades in the shops, you know, you get this generally hard pomade. And the difference is that these are really awesome for traveling historically because they're not as messy. They have wax in, so they're going to hold your curl sets, or they're going to hold your curls that are pinned in better than you would if you had a soft pomade. So soft pomatums are excellent for shine and flyaways and to really smooth the hair. When I think of like soft pomades or soft pomatums, I think of various times throughout history. One of them would be the debate between hair powder. And this is a whole nother topic. So in the 18th century, you were either for hair powder or you were against it. And those that were against it, and you can see this in paintings too, you can tell like what painter was for hair powder and what painter was not. You would have women twisting and braiding their hair, and that would be amazing for soft pomade. If they were for hair powder, the ladies will be powdered, which if they were against hair powder, then you would see the hair twisted. In the 18th century manuals, we often see a first base of powder using the soft pomade or the soft pomatum. They always say like, this is your first base, you know, then you put your powder on, and after you get it all brushed out, that's like your base powder for the week. And then as the week goes on, you're going to be working your hard pomade or hard pomatum in there for styling and adding more powder on top of it. The women who were against hair powder, I can see where they wouldn't have much need for a hard pomatum because they're not trying to hold curl in, they're not trying to have you know, the hair powder really stick to the pomade. All they want to do is they want to have nice, silky, healthy hair. And that's the other thing. Pomades, you know, we didn't have conditioners historically. We also see this trend in the like 1820s where we kind of start shifting that way, where, you know, people really aren't powdering their hair like we see in the 18th century. They're still using it discreetly for oil control like dry shampoo, and that's really what powder is. But you need your pomade in the 18th century for your powder to stick to. If you want really soft, shiny hair as you're working those updos, you know, work in some soft pomade. If you want really good hold with your hairpins and the powder to really stick to them, work with your hard pomade. So when you visit our shop, you are going to see in the hair section, you're going to see all these different pomades, and hopefully this will give you like a little better idea of what you're going to be using your hard pomades for, what you're going to be using your soft pomades for. And pomades were around throughout history, so it's not like it's just an 18th century thing. And we have various pomades or pomatums for various time periods in history. And as we kind of move through history, we see this really cool change happening, where as soon as they discover new ingredients, like let's just say in the 1920s, because this is the one that I have out. So when they discover new ingredients that can be implemented into the recipes, this is how recipes change. We go from pomades or pomatums that are a fat and an oil and a wax and a water base. You know, those are like the main ingredients. But then all of a sudden new ingredients come in, and they want to work those ingredients into the products. And so this is where you get a 1922 recipe for a pomade made with petroleum jelly. When you start studying historical recipes, you can actually see where these recipes change as time goes on. They start with the basic recipe from, you know, the century before, and they get a brand new ingredient and they're like, let's put this ingredient in, you know. We can talk about various fats too in pomades. So fats and oils, major component of pomades, pomatums, okay? Now, there's different types of fats that work for different purposes. So I don't know if you guys can see this. It's got like little speckles in. It's definitely a different color than this one right here, right? It's a little bit darker. That is because there is different types of fats and obviously various types of oils. Some of the fats hold the hair better than the others. For example, we have an early Regency recipe for a lemon lavender hard pomatum, and that is made with mutton tallow. So mutton tallow is the hardest type of tallow, which means that it's going to give you extra hold in your hard pomade. So we always say, you know, ladies and gents, if you are looking for the ultimate hold, you would use this lavender lemon hard pomatum because it has the mutton tallow in. There's also like bone marrow, ox marrow being used, all kinds of different types of fats. And all these fats give the pomades or pomatums different properties. We have a castor oil pomatum in our shop, and castor oil is amazing for the hair. If you look up like what castor oil all does for the hair, it's pretty cool. And we don't see castor oil being used in the 18th century, you know. So that's another example of when items became available either through trade or by discovery, they would put them in. They say, oh wow, this works really great for hair, so let's start making some hair pomatums with that. And you start to see castor oil coming in like, I saw a reference in 1820, so it was around, but more like 1840, 1850, 1860. I hope this gives you guys a good starting background for understanding pomatums and pomades a little bit more. And we're gonna just do like a Cliff Notes recap here. So basically, pomade, pomatum, same word, just different terminology used in history, which originally from French and then further back from Latin. And that had to do with apples, so mashed up apples. First, pomade, it's an ointment for the hair, but also pomatum is just a general salve, general ointment. So throughout history, there were pomatums specifically for the skin, there were pomatums specifically for the hair. As the ingredients changed, we see the introduction of fats and oils, and the fats change too. Some fats are thicker, some fats are heavier, some fats hold better. Mutton tallow is a really great example. And then also you have various crazes like bear fat. Bear fat was a craze that lasted for quite a while in the 19th century. Bear fat was said to promote so many, you know, healthy constructs for the hair that it lasted for quite a while. Then you kind of head into the 20th century and you see ingredients, new ingredients happening, new discoveries, and all of a sudden you see things like petroleum being used in products. The evolution of pomade, which then by the 20th century was kind of just denoted to specific hair ointments. And also I think it's really good to note that hair pomades do not necessarily mean that they are clear with the fat. A lot of times dyes were added into them. In the 18th century we see browns and blacks being put in for dyeing the pomade. In the 20th century, you know, we see browns and blacks being put in to dye the pomade. So dyes were put in, and pomades were generally used as a conditioner because we didn't quite have what we think of as shampoo for quite a while. You know, your hair powder was to help control the greasiness, but the pomade was to help the powder stick and also to give the conditioning. And that's why you have special oils being added. Really, it was a way to help condition the hair, to help keep the hair clean and help achieve those hairstyles that were popular throughout the various time periods. The other interesting thing about pomades is when you think about hairsprays, when you think about like gels, they dry, right? And they can become really gross and like flaky. Well, pomades, they don't dry. So you're constantly giving your hair moisture. It protects it longer. It's not gonna dry your hair out and get flaky and gross. Hopefully this gives you guys an idea of an introduction to pomades. We're gonna do the same with powders, and we're gonna kind of work our way through with rouges, the different type of rouges. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and definitely check out our website at www.lebits.etsy.com.